Well, hello there, everybody. How are you? How's it going? How you doing? That was bad, huh? That was a that was a bad baseball game all the way around. I actually recorded earlier and I have a podcast for today, so this will probably be pretty short. Will, gotta agree with you. Meh. Yeah, that was just a bad look, man. Uh, they threw Antonio Santos out there. Um, I was curious to see how he'd respond. Uh, he did not respond well. Tough spot for the kid. You know, he arguably shouldn't be there at all. He wouldn't be if not for several other key injuries to the starting pitching. And you know, if he's got a strong enough constitution, and they know this kid better than I do, you know, then something like this shouldn't bother him. You know, should be fine. It's a game that didn't matter. He didn't blow the season for his team, anything like that. You can put him out there. You can learn from those mistakes, right? And honestly, and again, you don't want to like ruin the confidence of anybody, but I also don't like Antonio Santos doesn't have some like huge. He's not some huge part of the Rockies' future plans either, right? They're trying to figure out if he's a thing at all, and if he's not a thing, no big deal. They don't have all that much invested in him conceptually. Um, but you know, you go out and you can't get a third out, and you give up 6 earned on 5 hits, couple of walks. And we saw him have that struggle in San Diego when he inherited the bases loaded, nobody out situation. Maybe he figures it out, maybe he doesn't. The Rockies don't, you know, it this was just such a blah. And Will, you're right, Matt. Such a blah game. It didn't matter. You know, you'd like to see a little better out of Hoffman. 2 innings, 4 hits, 3 earned runs. The 3-run jack. Well, it wasn't a 3-run jack. The guy who's barely hitting anything all year. Like not good. Another Tommy Doyle sighting. He was fine. You know, AJ Ramos, I doubt he's on the team next year. Jesus Tinoco, another guy. Like everybody who pitched today or in this second game here was a guy who there's probably one of these names will probably still be in the Rockies organization next year. Remember, Tinoco wasn't already this year for a minute. Ramos wasn't. Doyle's kind of an organizational guy, so Tommy Doyle will be in the organization, and Santos will probably still be in the organization, but those guys might be in Double-A. You know, if we go back to a normal farm system setup, like those guys they're just not going to be around, right? So this was a loss from the start. Like as soon as the game began, probably before the game began, it was a loss. Few bright spots on offense, I guess. Tapia with another base hit and run scored. Kevin Pillar with 3 base hits and the 3 ribbies. That's, you know, again, you like seeing that. It'll be interesting to see if management has fallen in love with Kevin Pillar. McMahon with another home run. How many's he got now on the year? That is his 8th. So the home run pace is still good from McMahon. You just got to cut down on those strikeouts for next season. And that's it. What else you got? Anybody else? Anybody else got? I said this is going to be a short one. I already got the podcast for it. Look, if this had been a great game, I'd come here and I'd break it down for you, and I'd go through it. But even the runs the Rockies got here, the 5 they got, while giving up 11, just nothing to write home about. We've seen Ryan McMahon hit the big solo home run. You know, we've more or less seen Kevin Pillar hit since he's come. We know what Raimel Tapia can do. They are they're just kind of petering out here. And Joseph, as I said earlier, I think there will be coaching changes. It's not going to be Bud Black. I'd be very surprised if it was, and I don't think it should be. There will be coaching changes. And Will, yeah, the pitching depth, and Patrick and I can get into this more tomorrow, but yes, some of it's the talent. A lot of it is also just no minor leagues this year, no way to keep guys healthy and at altitude, and all those other things are true, and some ill-timed injuries and all that. But yeah, I mean, they've got to replenish the pitching situation. They've got to make that better. Thanks for hanging out, Zach. But no, yeah, like you've almost got to come back with a completely different bullpen next season. Maybe, like I said, one or two guys earlier. I was talking, you bring back Bard if you can. Almonte, obviously Oberg, you've got coming back. He's got a pretty decent contract. And Estevez and Diaz are fine organizational guys if you can bring in a bunch of other people as insurance for them. But that's what you've got to do, is just rebuild that bullpen completely. Outside of the handful of guys that I just mentioned. I don't know why I even need that. I'm not even talking to Patrick. Yeah, Will, if Riley Pint had turned into more of a thing, and at the very least, could be a reliever type, or Mike Nicorak was another one of those young fireballing pitchers that they thought were going to be maybe something, and right now just are not something. There are a few other guys, like Patrick and I have talked about, Ryan Rollison should be a factor by next season. That's a plus. Castellani, I think, is a solid depth option now that you get to add Peter Lambert back into the mix. I'd have to look again. I mean, we're just hanging out. Like I said, I'm not saving this for the podcast. I have an organizational depth chart that I created for the draft. I'll see if I can show it to you. I don't think I've updated it either. I think I can. Let's see. Yeah. Tab. And again, I just made this up. Don't let any of this other stuff. These are my potential and floor and all that is what I've decided. But right, you see so Marquez, Freeland, Senzatella, Lambert, Hoffman, Chi-Chi's not going to be a thing. Ashton Godot, maybe. Jose Mujica really never came around at all this year whatsoever. And I still think, he was recovering from TJ. He could end up being a thing at 23 years old. I think he could be a bounce back candidate. Castellani, we talked about. I don't see much in Parsons or Antonio Santos. Baldo Jimenez retired. Evan Grills, Ben Meyer are organizational guys. Ryan Rollison, we just talked about. Jack Winku. Carl Kaufman still out there and exists. I have no idea what he's up to. I sent Patrick a random text the other day. I was like, what Carl Kaufman's doing? Ty Colbreth has sort of gotten up there a little bit. And then after that, you're talking about projects and long shots. Some of these other guys are at the very least, a long way away. And so that's part of why, again, I wouldn't be against a kind of mid-level veteran type guy. But as we know, the Rockies can't just go out and get a guy who's worth $6 or $7 million and pay him $6 or $7 million. They got to pay him 12 to come pitch for the Rockies if he's trying to, pitch for his next contract, especially if you want a guy who's not 30 years old, or 34 years old. You want someone who's, 28, 29. Is it going to cost that much more, man? So it's going to be interesting. But Joseph, I think the contention window, there a lot of it's going to depend on how they handle this offseason, and they're not going to do the total rebuild thing. They may be forced to trade Nolan Arenado, but I still expect they won't. And, that said, they can turn right around and be a good team next year. Assuming they don't blow all of their off-season moves. But as we've seen before, they're perfectly capable of blowing all of their off-season moves. What do we have in terms of relievers? Here's the reliever depth chart. Realize it was only starters there. So you see, obviously, Davis gone, Oberg Diaz, Michael Givens, I forgot. I think you can expect better out of him next year. Pazos, that really didn't get anything out of him. Finally got rid of Sean McGee. I can delete those guys out of here. Almonte, you feel all right about. Kinley, I think I forget about him sometimes. You feel okay about him as the fifth or sixth guy in your bullpen if you can, again, stack the top part of it a bit better. Philip Deal obviously had a nightmare of a season. We'll hopefully, he can figure it out. Ben Bowden is a guy we've talked about a lot. Justin Lawrence is still out there, has spent a long time suspended. And so we'll see whether or not, he's got that rust on him. Tommy Doyle, we talked about. I don't, see a whole lot there. Robert Tyler still exists. TJ Puyen. These are guys. Tim Collins, I'm not impressed with. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Justin Lawrence, I think, yeah, Joseph, I still think Justin Lawrence could be a big deal. Beyond that, I don't see a real impact guy in that group. Maybe, again, like the guys we talked about, if they finally figure out and convert Riley Pint, Nick Rack, some of these other flamethrowers. But that's a long way out for those guys. Not something that I would expect to happen. And beyond that, nope, there's not much. So that's where I'd be spending all my time and energy if I was the GM of the Rockies this offseason is reshaping the bullpen. Maybe go look for a bat, but beyond that, all relievers, and more relievers. Yeah, that's all I got. This isn't an official game or podcast, but I guess I should give you a draft king of the game just to be sure so I don't get in trouble. Use promo code DNVR. Kevin Pillar went 3 for 4 with 3 ribbies. Make him your king of the game. Why not? They played a baseball game. He showed up to work. He hit the ball hard a couple of times, drove in some runs. Give him the king of the game. Sure. Certainly wasn't going to be anybody on the pitching staff in this particular one. Although I thought Tinoco threw some stuff that looked okay. The 2 walks, I don't know. I had thought Tinoco was going to be one of those guys who could come around. He's got the stuff. Just isn't happening. Just isn't happening. But, I thought about that with Almonte for a while. And last year, you were going, all right, not going to happen for Almonte. And now, there he is. So, oh no, Will. Dinelson Lamet might have blown out his elbow. That'd be terrible. That guy's got some incredible stuff. I actually really like watching Lamet pitch. That would be really, really bad. That's all I got. I got nothing else. What do you, any questions, comments, suggestions? Because I'm running out of gas on this one. I think I'm going to have to close up shop here, come back at it, get back at it tomorrow. So he left the game, huh? That's brutal, man. That is absolutely brutal for the Padres, though. So you got to be careful out there with your hubris. Yeah. Rockies not going to playoffs. Cure Toad. There's a question. Think they win another game this year? Yeah. They got Marquez and Freeland going. Yeah. God, and they got to win them both to get that DraftKings over. Gonna have some disappointed people out there. I told them it was an easy over on that 26.5 wins for the Colorado Rockies this year. Of course, I didn't have Nolan having this kind of year. Hurt, not hurt, whatever. I just either not there or not good. Didn't have that. Yeah, I'll say they get at least one of those 2 games with Marquez and Freeland going. And the offense hasn't looked terrible in these games. It's, it's just they got too many holes in too many places. It's whack-a-mole problem, and you can't be good like that. And hopefully they're realizing it. So thanks everyone for hanging out for this short one and just chatting with me. And yeah, we'll do more baseball tomorrow. That's just the way it's going to be, folks. Look, we only got 2 more of these things, and then the Rockies, after not playing baseball for so long, won't again until next year, until a very, very long time. And so thanks, France Rockies, Kirto, Joseph, Will, Daniel, everybody hanging out. It's been fun. Appreciate it. And see you tomorrow near the ballpark. Bye.